Ladies and gentlemen, sisters, daughters, and friends, today I want to remind you of something that we often forget in the rush of living. You are not just who you were yesterday, and you are not just who you are today. You are also who you are becoming, and the woman you are becoming is worthy of love, respect, and honor. She deserves for you to wear your crown with pride. Too often we diminish ourselves. We shrink back when we should rise. We apologize for existing when we should celebrate being here. And we question our worth when the truth is, we are enough as we are. The journey of becoming is not about chasing perfection. It is about stepping into your authenticity. It is about choosing courage over comfort, truth over silence, and grace over shame. Wearing your crown is not about arrogance, nor about comparing yourself to anyone else. It is about knowing that the woman in the mirror is a work in progress, and progress itself is beautiful. It is about owning your story, all of it. The chapters of pain, the seasons of struggle, the mistakes that once made you doubt yourself. These do not disqualify you. They are proof that you have lived, learned, and risen. To fall in love with the woman you are becoming means to be gentle with yourself on the hard days. It means to forgive yourself for the times you stumbled. It means to celebrate your resilience, your small victories, and your quiet courage. So wear the crown, not because life has been easy, but because you have decided to honor your journey. Not because you are finished, but because you are still becoming. The crown belongs to you, not when you have arrived, but as you keep rising, keep learning, keep daring, and keep loving yourself into the fullness of who you were always meant to be. Vulnerability is your strength, not your weakness. This is a truth that many of us spend years, sometimes decades, unlearning because the world often teaches us the opposite. From a young age, we are conditioned to believe that to be strong means to be untouchable, to hold everything together, to never let the cracks show. We are taught to guard ourselves, to hide our fears, and to bury our pain because we fear rejection or judgment if others see what lies beneath the surface. Yet, when we stop for a moment and reflect on the people we truly admire, the ones who move us, who touch our hearts, who leave an imprint on our souls, they are not the ones who never stumble, who never cry, or who pretend to be invincible. They are the ones who dare to be real. They are the ones who let their walls down and allow us to see their humanity. That is the essence of vulnerability, and it is in that space of honesty where true strength lies. When you fall in love with the woman you are becoming, you cannot do so without embracing her vulnerability. Vulnerability is not just about sharing secrets or exposing wounds. It is about living in alignment with your truth. It is about saying, "This is who I am," without needing to polish every rough edge. It is about admitting when you are scared, when you are uncertain, when you don't have all the answers, and still moving forward. In a culture that celebrates perfection, that kind of courage is radical. It requires a deep well of strength to resist the pull of perfectionism and instead choose authenticity. So many women carry invisible armor. They wear masks to fit in. They silence themselves to avoid conflict. They pretend to be okay when inside they are exhausted. This armor may protect them in the short term, but it robs them of connection, joy, and belonging. Vulnerability asks us to put down the armor. It asks us to risk being seen for who we really are. And yes, that risk comes with the possibility of rejection. But it also comes with the possibility of deep love, real intimacy, and genuine belonging. Strength is not built by shielding ourselves from pain. It is built by walking through it with courage. Think about the moments in your life when you have felt the most connected to someone. Was it when everything was polished and perfect? Or was it when they allowed you to see their struggle? Maybe it was a friend who admitted she was falling apart, but trusted you enough to share her tears. Maybe it was a mentor who told you about the mistakes they made before they found success. Maybe it was a loved one who whispered, "I'm scared too." And in that moment you felt less alone. Vulnerability is the birthplace of connection. Because when we are brave enough to share our truth, others recognize themselves in our stories. They see that they are not the only ones with cracks. And in that recognition, shame loses its power. Falling in love with the woman you are becoming requires practicing this kind of openness with yourself first. It is one thing to present an image of perfection to the world, but it is another to be honest with yourself in the quiet of your own heart. It is hard to stand in the mirror and admit that you are hurting, or that you are lonely, or that you feel like you are not enough. But when you allow yourself to speak the truth, even if it is just whispered in prayer, even if it is just written in a journal, you begin to release the weight of pretending. Pretending is exhausting. Honesty, though uncomfortable, is liberating. It sets the stage for growth, because you can only change what you are willing to face. Vulnerability also means letting go of the lie that strength is found in isolation. So many of us think we must carry everything alone, that asking for help makes us weak. But the reality is, asking for help is one of the bravest acts a person can do. To say, "I cannot do this by myself," is not an admission of weakness. It is an acknowledgement of humanity. It takes courage to admit need. And in that courage, you create space for others to step in, for community to flourish, and for healing to happen. The woman you are becoming does not need to prove her worth by suffering in silence. She honors herself by opening her hands and allowing others to hold some of her burdens too. In many ways, vulnerability is like standing naked in a storm. It feels terrifying to expose yourself to the elements, to risk being hurt or misunderstood. But it is also where the rain washes away what no longer serves you, where the wind clears out the clutter, where the lightning illuminates the path forward. Without vulnerability, life becomes a performance, a script that you are constantly rehearsing but never truly living. With vulnerability, life becomes an authentic journey. It may be messy, but it is real, and real is where love can grow. We often mistake vulnerability for oversharing, but they are not the same thing. Vulnerability is not about telling everyone every detail of your pain. It is about choosing courage in the right spaces with the right people. It is about opening your heart when connection and truth matter more than control and image. It is about having the courage to say, "I need you," or "I made a mistake," or "I'm scared but I'm still going to try." Vulnerability is intentional. It is the bridge that connects your inner self with the outer world in an honest way. The irony is that when we hide our vulnerability to appear strong, we often feel weaker inside because we know we are not living authentically. But when we embrace vulnerability, even though it feels frightening, we actually discover resilience we never knew we had. We realize that we can be honest and still be loved. We can fail and still rise. We can be broken and still be whole. Strength is not the absence of fear or failure. It is the willingness to show up anyway. The woman you are becoming does not wear her crown because she has no flaws. She wears her crown because she has learned to embrace them. She has learned that vulnerability is not the enemy of strength, but its birthplace. Every time she chooses to speak her truth instead of hiding, every time she chooses to lean into love instead of fear, every time she chooses authenticity over perfection, she polishes her crown a little more. Falling in love with her means loving the parts of you that tremble, the parts of you that question, the parts of you that feel deeply. It means realizing that these very parts are not liabilities. They are proof of your humanity, and your humanity is your power. So, as you walk forward, remember this: vulnerability is not the crack in your armor. It is the place where your light shines through. It is not weakness. It is courage in its purest form. When you dare to be vulnerable, you declare to the world and to yourself that you are enough as you are in this moment, in this becoming. And that truth, more than anything, is the crown you were born to wear. Your story is your power. These 5 words hold a truth that many of us struggle to accept, because the world often conditions us to believe that our worth is measured only by our successes, our achievements, and our highlight reels. We are told to hide our scars, to bury our failures, to silence our pain, and to show only the parts of our lives that shine. Yet the reality is, the story of who you are is not made only of the triumphant chapters. It is stitched together from the whole of your experience. The victories and the losses, the breakthroughs and the heartbreaks, the mistakes and the lessons. To fall in love with the woman you are becoming, you must learn to see your story not as something to hide, but as the very source of your power. When we think of power, we often imagine dominance, control, or influence over others. But the most authentic power comes from within, and it is born from owning your truth. Your story, with all its twists and turns, is a living testament to your resilience. The fact that you are here still standing means that you have survived things you once thought would break you. You have walked through seasons of fear, disappointment, and doubt, and yet you have kept moving forward. That journey is not just history, it is fuel, strength, and wisdom that you carry with you into every new chapter. Too often, women are taught to minimize their stories. We downplay our struggles to avoid pity. We mute our voices to avoid judgment. And we tell ourselves that our experiences don't matter because someone else has it worse. But minimizing your story is like dimming your light. Every part of your story matters because it has shaped the woman you are becoming. The heartbreak taught you empathy. The failure taught you resilience. The rejection taught you courage. The struggle taught you strength. These are not just random events in your past. They are building blocks of your identity, and together, they form a foundation strong enough to carry the weight of your crown. There is a reason why stories connect us more deeply than statistics or facts. When someone shares their truth, we see ourselves reflected in it. Their story becomes a mirror, reminding us that we are not alone. Think about the times when you have heard someone speak from a place of authenticity. Maybe it was a friend who admitted that she struggled with the same insecurities you thought only you carried. Maybe it was a leader who revealed that their success was born out of countless failures. In those moments, you felt less isolated, more understood, and more connected. That is the power of story. It builds bridges, it tears down walls, and it gives us permission to embrace our own journeys without shame. Loving the woman you are becoming means refusing to disown any part of your story. It means no longer wishing you could erase the chapters that felt too heavy, too messy, or too painful. Those chapters are the very ones that deepened your character and expanded your capacity to grow. To hide them would be to deny your own strength. When you embrace them, you begin to see your story not as a source of shame, but as a source of power. You begin to understand that your scars are not weaknesses. They are evidence of healing. They are proof that you have faced battles and emerged stronger. We live in a culture that often celebrates perfection and highlights reels, and this can trick us into believing that our worth is tied to a flawless image. But the truth is, the most magnetic people are not those who pretend to be perfect. They are those who live fully in their story. They do not try to erase their past, nor do they allow it to define their future. They own it. They stand tall in it. They allow their story to become a testimony that inspires others. When you wear your crown, you are not wearing it because your journey has been easy. You are wearing it because you have claimed every part of your journey as part of who you are. There is extraordinary freedom in choosing to own your story. Freedom from the weight of pretending. Freedom from the chains of shame. Freedom from the endless comparison that says your story is not as glamorous or significant as someone else's. When you accept your story as uniquely yours, you stop competing with narratives that were never meant to be yours in the first place. You realize that your path, with all its detours and delays, was never a mistake. It was preparation. It was shaping you into someone capable of becoming the woman you are destined to be. Your story also holds power because it equips you to lift others. The lessons you learned in your valleys can become the map that helps someone else navigate theirs. The courage you found in your hardest seasons can be the encouragement someone else needs to keep going. The voice you reclaim when you tell your truth becomes the voice that echoes in the hearts of those who hear you. You may not even realize how many lives you touch simply by refusing to silence your story. In a world where so many people are hiding behind masks, your willingness to stand unmasked becomes revolutionary. Of course, owning your story does not mean that every part of it is easy to carry. There will be chapters that still sting, memories that still ache, and wounds that are still healing. But even in that, there is power. Power in acknowledging your humanity. Power in showing that you do not need to have everything figured out to still rise. Power in admitting that healing is ongoing, but so is becoming. You are not required to be a finished masterpiece to wear your crown. The crown belongs to you in the middle of the process, in the midst of the unfolding, in the sacred becoming. There is also something deeply spiritual in the act of owning your story. It is an act of trust. Trust that every experience has meaning, that nothing has been wasted, and that even the darkest moments were preparing you for light. It is an act of surrender, because it means releasing the need to control the narrative and instead honoring the truth of it. And it is an act of love, self-love, because it means looking at every version of yourself, past and present, and saying, I see you, I accept you, and I honor you. The woman you are becoming is not ashamed of her story. She carries it with dignity because she knows that her story is what makes her unique, resilient, and powerful. She knows that every chapter has value and that even the ones written in tears can give birth to wisdom. She wears her crown not as someone who has lived a flawless life, but as someone who has dared to live fully and honestly. Falling in love with her means falling in love with the wholeness of your journey. The pain, the triumph, the mistakes, the miracles, all of it. So remember this: your story is your power. It does not need to be compared, corrected, or hidden. It is enough. You are enough. When you dare to own it, you step into a strength that no one can take away from you, because it is rooted not in image, but in truth. And when you live from that truth, you shine with a kind of authenticity that makes your crown not only visible but unshakable. Courage grows when you lean into discomfort. This truth is one that challenges every part of us because by nature we seek comfort, safety, and predictability. We want life to feel secure, controlled, and free of risk. But the reality is that growth cannot coexist with constant comfort. Every meaningful transformation in your life, every breakthrough, every time you have become a stronger, wiser version of yourself, it has been because you were willing to walk into a space that scared you. Discomfort is not the enemy. It is the soil in which courage is planted, nurtured, and grown. If you want to fall in love with the woman you are becoming, you must learn to see discomfort not as a signal to retreat, but as a sacred invitation to rise. Think about the pivotal moments in your life. Perhaps it was the time you took a job that scared you, because you weren't sure if you were qualified. Maybe it was when you spoke up in a room where your voice once trembled. Maybe it was when you ended a relationship that was familiar but not healthy, and you stepped into the terrifying unknown of being alone. In those moments, you felt discomfort pressing against you like a weight. You felt fear whispering all the reasons you should turn back. But when you leaned in anyway, when you chose to face the discomfort instead of running from it, something in you expanded. You discovered reserves of courage you didn't even know existed. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to move forward in spite of it. And that choice is only possible when you are willing to stand in discomfort long enough to let it shape you. The woman you are becoming is not defined by how easily life flows for her. She is defined by how she responds when life stretches her beyond what feels easy. She is formed in the moments when she dares to leave the safety of her comfort zone to step into the unknown. Each time she does, her courage grows a little stronger, her voice grows a little steadier, her faith grows a little deeper. And each time, she realizes that what once felt unbearable is now something she can carry with grace. Discomfort often shows up as vulnerability, fear, or uncertainty, and everything in us wants to escape those feelings. But avoidance is not the same as protection. Avoidance keeps us stuck. The job you don't apply for because you're scared of rejection keeps you in a career that doesn't fulfill you. The conversation you avoid because it feels uncomfortable keeps you trapped in relationships without real honesty. The risks you refuse to take because of fear keep you from discovering what you're capable of. Discomfort is not trying to harm you. It is trying to teach you. It is trying to show you where courage is waiting to be born. We often admire courageous people and tell ourselves they are different, stronger, or braver than us. But courage is not a trait that some people are born with and others are not. It is a muscle, and like any muscle, it grows with use. The only way to build courage is to exercise it, and the only way to exercise it is to lean into discomfort. The first time you do something that terrifies you, your voice may shake, your knees may tremble, and your heart may pound. But each time you return to that place of discomfort, it feels a little less foreign, and you realize you can hold it a little longer. This is how courage is cultivated, by repeatedly choosing bravery over retreat, even in the small ordinary moments. There is also freedom in realizing that discomfort is temporary. Fear tells you that if you step into the unknown, you will be stuck in pain forever. But discomfort is a season, not a sentence. Every difficult conversation eventually ends. Every risk eventually brings clarity. Every leap eventually lands. The fear of discomfort is often worse than the discomfort itself. When you walk through it, you discover that you are far more resilient than you imagined. That resilience then becomes part of your identity, and it travels with you into every future challenge. The woman you are becoming knows that leaning into discomfort is not reckless. It is intentional. She does not chase pain for the sake of pain, but she does not run from it either. She understands that growth requires stretching, and stretching is never without tension. She understands that courage is not developed in the moments when everything feels safe, but in the moments when she stands at the edge of uncertainty and whispers, "I will try anyway." Falling in love with her means learning to embrace those edges, to honor them as thresholds into new strength. Leaning into discomfort also dismantles the lie of perfection. Perfection says, only move when you are certain. Only act when you can guarantee success. Only speak when you know everyone will approve. But courage says, move anyway, act anyway, speak anyway. When you choose courage, you reject the illusion of perfection and instead embrace progress. You realize that mistakes are not failures. They are proof that you were brave enough to try. And each attempt, no matter how messy, brings you closer to who you are becoming. Discomfort has a way of refining us in ways comfort never could. It humbles us, reminding us that we do not have all the answers. It strengthens us, showing us that we can endure what once felt impossible. It softens us, deepening our compassion for others who are walking through their own difficult paths. And it empowers us, equipping us with the courage to face future challenges with faith instead of fear. Discomfort is not punishment. It is preparation. Every time you lean into it, you are being prepared for greater levels of strength, wisdom, and resilience. There will always be a temptation to retreat back to safety, to cling to what is familiar, even when it no longer serves you. But safety without growth quickly becomes a cage. The woman you are becoming was not made for cages. She was made to soar, to expand, to stretch into new possibilities. And that requires you to choose discomfort as a companion, not an enemy. You may not welcome it, but you can honor it for the role it plays in your becoming. Courage is not a grand moment reserved for heroes. It is in the daily choices you make when you lean into discomfort. It is in the decision to say yes to opportunities that scare you. It is in the choice to be honest when silence would be easier. It is in the act of showing up as yourself in spaces where you fear judgment. These choices, repeated day after day, build a foundation of courage that cannot be shaken. And over time, you begin to see yourself differently. You begin to realize that you are not fragile. You are resilient. You are not small. You are expanding. You are not powerless. You are courageous. So remember, this courage grows when you lean into discomfort. It does not grow when life is easy, predictable, and safe. It grows in the stretching, the trembling, the moments when you step into the unknown with nothing but faith and determination. The woman you are becoming is being shaped in those very moments. She is discovering her strength, her voice, her resilience, and her power in the places that once terrified her. And every time you lean in, you polish the crown that rests on your head. Not because life is free of fear, but because you chose to be courageous anyway. Self-compassion is non-negotiable. This is a principle that so many of us overlook in our pursuit of success, love, and personal growth. We are conditioned to believe that our worth is earned through achievements, perfection, or the approval of others. And as a result, we often become our own harshest critics. We replay mistakes endlessly. We judge ourselves for not measuring up, and we hold ourselves to impossible standards. Yet the truth is, you cannot fully love the woman you are becoming without first extending compassion to yourself. Self-compassion is not indulgence. It is not weakness. It is a radical act of courage and respect for your own humanity, a foundation upon which every other part of your growth depends. To embrace self-compassion is to acknowledge that being human means being imperfect. It means understanding that mistakes, failures, and setbacks are inevitable parts of life, not indicators of inadequacy. It means looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, "I see you. I honor you. You are enough." So often, we mistake self-criticism for motivation, thinking that if we beat ourselves up, we will somehow be pushed to do better. But harshness does not inspire growth. It breeds shame, fear, and self-doubt. Self-compassion, on the other hand, provides the nurturing environment in which transformation can actually flourish. It is the quiet, steady voice that whispers, "You are allowed to stumble, and you are allowed to rise." The woman you are becoming deserves the same kindness and understanding that you so readily extend to others. Think about how you treat your loved ones when they fail or when they are hurting. You do not berate them, you console them. You do not demand that they be perfect, you remind them of their worth. Now imagine offering yourself that same care and tenderness. This is what self-compassion looks like in action. It is choosing to speak to yourself with patience rather than criticism, to comfort yourself rather than condemn yourself, and to recognize your intrinsic value regardless of circumstance. Self-compassion also requires us to confront our inner narratives, the stories we tell ourselves about who we are, what we deserve, and what we are capable of. Many of us carry beliefs that we are not enough, that our voices do not matter, or that our dreams are too big. These narratives are often reinforced by years of societal pressure, past failures, and personal insecurities. But these stories are not the truth. They are interpretations, and they can be rewritten. Self-compassion gives you the courage to challenge these narratives. It allows you to replace self-judgment with self-affirmation, doubt with trust, and criticism with kindness. In doing so, you reclaim the power to define your worth on your own terms. One of the most profound aspects of self-compassion is its ability to transform the way we relate to failure. In a world obsessed with achievement, failure is often treated as a catastrophe, a stain on our record, or evidence of unworthiness. But self-compassion teaches us that failure is not the enemy, it is a teacher. When you approach your mistakes with compassion, you are able to examine them with clarity, learn from them, and grow without being crushed by shame. You begin to see failure as feedback, not punishment. This shift in perspective is essential for anyone striving to become a fuller, braver, more authentic version of themselves. Self-compassion also intersects with boundaries and self-respect. It means recognizing when to say no, when to step back from situations that drain you, and when to protect your energy. It means refusing to tolerate relationships, work environments, or habits that diminish your well-being. When you practice self-compassion, you acknowledge that your needs, feelings, and health matter. You no longer apologize for taking up space or for prioritizing your growth. You understand that caring for yourself is not selfish. It is essential. The crown you wear grows brighter when it is nourished by this kind of mindful, intentional care. It is also important to understand that self-compassion is a practice, not a destination. It does not mean that you will never criticize yourself or feel insecure. You will. But the difference is in how you respond. Self-compassion allows you to pause, acknowledge your feelings without judgment, and respond with care rather than punishment. It is a daily choice, a conscious decision to treat yourself with the same grace that you would extend to someone you love deeply. The more consistently you practice it, the more resilient and confident you become, and the more capable you are of loving the woman you are becoming. There is a spiritual dimension to self-compassion as well. To be compassionate with yourself is to recognize the sacredness of your existence. It is to honor the journey you have walked, the obstacles you have overcome, and the potential that lies ahead. It is to understand that you are worthy of love not because of what you do or accomplish, but because you exist. This recognition nurtures a profound sense of peace and belonging within yourself. When you cultivate this inner sanctuary of self-compassion, you are less dependent on external validation, and you become a source of stability, strength, and inspiration for yourself and for others. Self-compassion also deepens your empathy and connection with others. When you treat yourself with kindness, you develop a greater capacity to treat others with the same care. You begin to recognize that everyone is navigating their own struggles, insecurities, and failures. Your compassion for yourself becomes a bridge to understanding and supporting those around you. The woman you are becoming does not only shine for herself, she illuminates the path for others through the example of self-kindness, patience, and grace. Moreover, self-compassion transforms how we approach our dreams and ambitions. It allows us to take risks without the paralyzing fear of imperfection. When you are compassionate with yourself, you give yourself permission to try, to experiment, and to grow without the constant burden of judgment. You are more willing to step into uncertainty, knowing that your worth is not contingent on immediate success. You become bolder, freer, and more aligned with your authentic self. Falling in love with the woman you are becoming means recognizing that she is a work in progress, and that progress deserves celebration, not criticism. Every time you choose to treat yourself with compassion, every time you forgive yourself for a mistake, every time you honor your needs instead of ignoring them, you are falling more deeply in love with her. You are acknowledging her worth, her resilience, and her humanity, and in that love she flourishes. So remember, self-compassion is non-negotiable. It is not optional, and it is not secondary to success, productivity, or achievement. It is the foundation of growth, courage, and authenticity. It is the practice that allows you to embrace your journey without shame, to celebrate your wins without arrogance, and to rise from your failures with grace. The woman you are becoming deserves this gift every single day. She deserves the kindness, patience, and understanding that self-compassion provides. When you choose to give it to her, you are not only honoring who she is, you are nurturing the crown she was born to wear. Connection begins with authenticity. This is a principle that is often overlooked in a world that constantly tells us to perform, to fit in, and to present a version of ourselves that is acceptable to others. From an early age, many of us learn that showing our true selves can be risky. We are taught to hide our flaws, to mute our opinions, and to mask our insecurities because vulnerability feels unsafe. But the truth is that authentic connection that nourishes the soul, builds trust, and creates lasting bonds, cannot exist without authenticity. To fall in love with the woman you are becoming, you must first embrace her fully and allow others to meet her as she truly is, without pretense or apology. Authenticity is about more than honesty. It is about alignment. It is about ensuring that your words, actions, and beliefs reflect your inner truth. When you are authentic, you are not performing to gain approval or acceptance. You are living from a place of integrity, where who you are on the inside matches how you show up in the world. The woman you are becoming understands that her worth does not depend on how well she meets external expectations. She knows that true power is in showing up as herself, even if it feels uncomfortable, even if it risks rejection, and even if it means standing apart from the crowd. Connection cannot flourish in the absence of authenticity because relationships built on masks are fragile. When we present only curated versions of ourselves, we invite others to do the same. The interactions may seem smooth, but they lack depth. They are often transactional, superficial, and fleeting because there is no real vulnerability, no true reciprocity. People connect to people, not personas. The woman you are becoming recognizes this, and she chooses to offer her true self first, trusting that those who are meant to stay will do so because of her essence, not her performance. Being authentic also means embracing your imperfections. It is tempting to hide the parts of yourself that feel broken, inadequate, or different. But in doing so, you rob others of the chance to connect with your real story, to see the courage in your vulnerability, and to witness the beauty in your humanity. Authenticity is messy, it is raw, it is imperfect, and it is precisely in that imperfection that others find relatability and inspiration. By showing your true self, you create space for others to do the same, creating bonds that are deep, enduring, and transformative. Connection requires courage. Because authenticity often invites judgment, it requires stepping into spaces where you might be misunderstood, rejected, or criticized. Yet, courage and authenticity are inseparable. Every time the woman you are becoming chooses to speak her truth instead of muting it, every time she sets a boundary instead of compromising her values, and every time she shows up with her whole self rather than a polished mask, she strengthens her ability to form meaningful connections. Courage in authenticity is not about being fearless. It is about being willing to risk discomfort to honor your truth. Authenticity also demands that you listen deeply to yourself and to others. To be authentic in connection, you must know who you are and what you stand for. This requires reflection, self-awareness, and sometimes solitude. You must explore your own desires, values, and limits so that your interactions with others are rooted in clarity rather than reaction. Once you understand yourself, you are better equipped to engage with others in a way that is genuine, empathetic, and mutually respectful. You also create an environment where others feel safe to express themselves because authenticity begets authenticity. The woman you are becoming understands that authentic connection is not about perfection or constant agreement. It is about honesty, mutual respect, and empathy. It is about saying what you mean, listening without judgment, and showing up consistently. Authentic connection thrives on transparency, where emotions are expressed freely, expectations are communicated clearly, and intentions are pure. It is not manipulative, performative, or conditional. It is based on the fundamental understanding that all human beings desire to be seen, heard, and understood. Authenticity also intersects with vulnerability. You cannot connect deeply with others if you are unwilling to be seen fully, including the parts of yourself that feel fragile, uncertain, or unworthy. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is the bridge that allows others to meet you in your full humanity. Every time you allow yourself to be vulnerable, you invite others to do the same. This is how trust is built, how intimacy is nurtured, and how connections transform from superficial interactions into relationships that sustain, challenge, and inspire. Connection begins with authenticity because it sets the tone for how others experience you. People are intuitive. They can sense when you are genuine versus when you are performing. Authenticity attracts those who resonate with your truth and filters out those who do not. This means that your energy is invested where it matters, and your relationships are strengthened rather than diluted. The woman you are becoming learns to honor this process, understanding that not every connection will last, but the ones that do are rooted in mutual authenticity and respect. Being authentic also means being honest about your needs and boundaries. To form meaningful connections, you cannot sacrifice your well-being or your values to please others. The woman you are becoming communicates clearly about what she requires and what she cannot tolerate. She recognizes that boundaries are not barriers. They are the framework for healthy, sustainable relationships. Authenticity thrives in spaces where honesty and respect coexist, and boundaries are the pillars that support that coexistence. Authenticity also requires patience and self-compassion. You may not always get it right. You may struggle with moments of insecurity, fear, or doubt. But each time you choose to return to your truth, you reinforce your commitment to yourself and to those with whom you connect. You learn that authenticity is a lifelong practice, not a destination. It is a continual choice to be real, even when it is difficult, even when it is risky, and even when it feels uncomfortable. The woman you are becoming understands that authentic connection is transformative. It is the foundation of love, friendship, and community. It nurtures growth, encourages vulnerability, and builds trust. By leaning into authenticity, she strengthens her relationships while simultaneously deepening her relationship with herself. She learns that the crown she wears shines brightest when it is supported by genuine connections rather than shallow interactions. Authenticity allows her to connect deeply, love fiercely, and live boldly. Falling in love with the woman you are becoming means celebrating her ability to be authentic in every relationship she engages in. It means honoring her courage to be seen fully, to speak her truth, and to hold her boundaries. It means recognizing that every authentic connection she nurtures reflects her commitment to living in alignment with her values and her truth. In that commitment, she discovers profound joy, belonging, and empowerment. So remember, this connection begins with authenticity. The woman you are becoming is not defined by the masks she wears, the approval she seeks, or the performances she delivers. She is defined by her willingness to be real, her courage to be vulnerable, and her commitment to live in alignment with her inner truth. Authenticity is the bridge that allows her to form meaningful relationships, the soil in which trust grows, and the foundation of her unshakable crown. When she chooses authenticity, she chooses connection, love, and the fullness of life that comes from being wholly herself.